Hello everyone. So since 28th February, we have seen the hostilities and brutalities all over the world in different forms and factions. Some people are facing energy crisis, some people are facing death, and some people are facing extreme frustration over losing the war. What's more interesting is that when most powerful people on the planet Earth are in the chair where they decide the fate of the world or destiny, we have to be very mindful of them and be careful. Because only yesterday, President Donald Trump said on air, on television, right before the eyes of camera, that Iranians are animals, therefore they deserve to die. Imagine the most powerful man who has nuclear armory and who has nuclear buttons before their table. He said, just because some section of the society doesn't like in the Middle East, he is associating their personalities, their genetics with the animals, and he wants to kill them. And for many reasons, people say maybe his rhetoric is like this, he always talks like this. But when man in power has authority and all the weapons that can actually destroy the humanity, we can't give him the leverage or benefit of a doubt that he was actually joking or he was talking out of the frustration. But he did when he said that Iranian has to die or they have to go through the hell. It is very disturbing and dangerous, at least in the form of understanding what and how this war has been unfolding. So for many people, this war is that Iranians have nukes or they are building nukes. So Israel and America wants to distinguish their nuclear plants. But if you go deep dive and put yourself into the efforts of researching about this subject, you will find out that this war is more about the religious faction than about the geopolitics. Because the greater Israel project cannot be completed and cannot be achieved until Iranian regime is intact in the Middle East. Israel has only one adversary in that region, and that is that is Iran, because Iranians have over the years developed proxies all over the Middle East, which are haunting and hurting Israel, and that's true. We have to be agreed on the fact that hostilities has been created by the Iran, but as of now they are victims, so we sort of give them a leverage that as of now they are under the umbrella of a huge aggression from Americans and Israelis. But we cannot deny the fact that they have been involved in some sort of a brutality against their own public and largely against Israel. But the logic that has been actually, platted and distributed from the Americans and importantly from the Trump is very absurd, and somehow it's completely dangerous. Dangerous in a way that he may deploy the nuke on the earth of Iran. And if so, if that happens, that would be the end of at least a Middle East, because then the most silent powers around Iran will also be activated, and then it would also be very dangerous for the Israel and their existence. They have always been bragging about that Israel has a right to exist. They have right to exist in their neighbors and everything, but they never talk about their weapons. They have been having weapons for 50 years, but they they never actually um, unclassified their nuclear power. Even according to UN conventions, UN treaties, they never disclose. And presumably, everyone understands that why they are not actually, disclosing their nuclear power, just because they have the umbrella of Americans. Whatever they do, they get away with the murder and they get away with a smile. But as of now, we have to understand that those who have been praising and licking the Trump, they must feel and understand that how fanatic this man is as of now, as of today, because he was bragging about being nominated for the Nobel Prize. And imagine if this guy has got that piece and now he is attacking and killing, decapitating the babies, Only 160 babies in the school where Americans says that they want to liberate the people of Persia. They actually decapitated 160 girls in a school. Imagine that. Imagine if that was happened by Iran and Israel. Imagine that if that was happened by Iraq and Israel. Imagine that Houthis, Yemen or Syria does that to the Israel. The whole world would be up in arms, like after Hamas did on 7th of October, which was horrendous and absolutely disgusting. No human should face any persecution on the basis of their right, religion, or caste and color. But that's what something we see. That's what we have actually observed for 2 years. That Israel has been doing killings as a habit. They are decapitating. They are extinguishing. They are extracting human lives out of habit. They are not discriminating between babies, women, children, and anything. Even they have this sort of you know they have this audacity where if you ask them, question them, they would say that you are anti-Semite, you are a Jew hater, and then it become a very difficult to this debate. When you are being labeled of being racist, then it become a very uncomfortable situation for you. But coming to the point, that is that knowing Donald Trump, that what he has been doing for 2 years, if he is not behold or held accountable, I mean, in worst case scenarios, he could do something which is unimaginable, and those who understanding the geopolitics could make sense what actually I'm trying to talking about. But who will stop him? I don't think so that anyone will stop him, because as of now, Democrat Party in uh, US, they are toothless. They do not have a single voice which can actually come in before the President Trump and actually cornered him. There's no voice. AOC, no. Bernie Sanders, maybe 20 years from now, Bernie Sanders could have done something different. Hakeem Jaffrey, no. Chuck Schumer, they can't do anything about this guy, because the whole right wing media in America is bragging about this war. They somehow want that President Trump go all in all against the people of Iranians. They want troops on the ground. If in worst scenarios, if something has happened like this, it would be a very horrendous situation for not just Iranians but whole of the world. Because as of now, the whole world is facing a crisis in different forms. Like Germany, talk about Germany, it is the 10th year since they have been facing the highest prices of energy. Even after COVID, they are facing this problem. Imagine that. Only today, Europe is trying to negotiate with the Iran that they want to make a deal on a Strait of Hormuz. That somehow they want that we can negotiate about the subject, that you let the European, ships go through that strait. Imagine that NATO is distancing from America, and America today is like acting like a big father, which is true. But imagine Afghanistan, imagine Iraq. If NATO was not there, would America be able to go through this? Would America survive 20 years without NATO? The answer is no. But then, when the fanatic personalities are being chaired in the power, the most important chairs in the world, then there are a consequence, because actions has a consequence. What Trump has done now, it will have a 10 years impact on the global politics and geopolitics, and someone has to pay for this. And those who are not aware of these situations, those who do not have an understanding of how geopolitics work, or how the most powerful influential peoples actually exploit these situations, nobody nobody will actually make sense of as of now. Because as of now, everyone sees some sort of a opportunity, because crisis has opportunities, all has always been. But once that crisis fade away, the wind goes away, then the draft comes in, you know then the saturation comes in, and that saturation is always being so hard to dealt with. What we have seen in Afghanistan for 20 years, Americans were there, okay. Then once they pull out, Taliban comes in, and what we seeing in Pakistan in terms of TTP, everyone sees it. And that was the problem of Americans to take out Osama bin Laden. But as of now, who is facing this crisis? Pakistanis. Why? Because Americans said, we are done and dusted. Now it's up to Taliban how they want to run this country. We are not going to intervene anymore. So we have to be mindful of such personalities. And as of now, Pakistani government is bragging about the personality and the charisma, the power, the stature of Donald Trump. They are somehow believing that this guy is a peacemaker. But knowing the history of Donald Trump, he has done more bombing in his previous terms than Obama collectively in 8 years. How? Imagine that scenario. Imagine that scenario, and still calling him that he's a peacemaker. How? It's not true. But again, who will stop this fanatic? Nobody knows. And will they ever be stopped? Who knows? Because even if somehow somebody keeps the senses alive and makes sense of Donald Trump that we have to pull out of Iran, and somehow President Trump's pull out, will Israelis pull out? No, they will never pull out, because it is their only life motive that they want to achieve the regime change in Iran. And if somehow they are not successful, then Iran would be in the position of dictating the terms, and that's the reality. If Iran somehow survives this conflict as of now inflicted upon them, Israel will lose the front seat. Israel will lose a seat of being the dictator of this region, and that's a true fact. Because then Iran will have a leverage that they will use against everyone, Europeans, Americans, Arabs. Because we have seen that Arabs are very disturbed with what is the situation has been developed or unfolded. Because Iranians have put them into the wall, they are being cornered, and they can't do anything about that. Because Arabs are the biggest admirer of President Trump, but it is the President Trump that has left them into the corners and left them alone. And he keeps saying, defend yourself, open your Strait of Hormuz. We are not coming for you. So this situation is very delicate, and let's see how it unfolds in further days. We will be keeping we'll be keeping an eye on this situation, because this is very interesting and this has to be followed. Because even if you are not political, apolitical, or whatever, politics always follows you, even if you don't follow the politics. Thank you.